Hello and welcome to Getting Candid with me, your girl Helen. You're joining me from the Legacy Resort. Very beautiful place, very refreshing views, just like the conversation we're about to have today, guys. There are certain conversations that society is not ready to talk about. A lot of people are not ready to open up about. I'm talking about infertility. My guest went through the joys and the pains of infertility, and she thought, why not talk about it? Because so many people hide and fight the battle silently, she thought, let me show them that it's okay to talk about these things. It's okay to complain about these things. And let us have society that is accepting to such people. And instead of laughing at them, help them. My guest, Nachi Mupeta, went through the joys and pains of conceiving, and she thought she should share her journey and just might be able to help somebody out there who may be battling with the same thing. Join me on the other side as I chat with her. Welcome back. So I mentioned in the opening that we are talking about a very sensitive subject, infertility, that a lot of people are uncomfortable to open up and say, this is what I'm going through, whether to their friends or families, because of the stigma that comes with that topic. But my guest today, Nachi, is ready to share with us the story, her pains, her joys of this journey. So let's get to it. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you, Helen?
Good. I'm excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, actually. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, this has been something that we've been planning on doing for for a
very long time.
Yes.
Yes. It finally happened.
Yeah, I think it was just meant for it to happen now. I think this is the right time for it to happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, firstly, how are you? How is home?
Well, I'm fine. We thank God. Mm-hmm. Home is fine. Everything around me is fine. We thank God for that.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, firstly, I would like to ask one question. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't come out and say, I've struggled to give birth. I struggled to get pregnant. Like whether male, female, because this is a struggle for both sexes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. How did you put yourself together, get the guts, and say, I think I want to go public with this story?
Well, it all draws down from people around me, like people that know my story. They've come up and say, I've been in situations where they've brought in people that have been going through the same thing, and then I walk them through it, and then there's a success story at the end of it, and maybe I counsel them, and then they feel some relief, because it's easier to actually feel relief when you're talked to by someone who's gone through it or actually going through it. So that's how I got the courage and said, maybe I can just come out in the open and help someone who's afraid of coming out from the closet.
Yeah.
Because this thing is very sensitive. Yeah.
How did you, who was the first person that you talked to and said, I think I'm struggling in this area of my life?
My mom. Shout out to my mom. She's my biggest cheerleader. So firstly, I was firstly married when I was 19 to an amazing friend now. We are very good friends. We were married for 1 year, 8 months. And then during that time, we actually tried to have a child, but it couldn't. And then previously he had children with other women. So it was a situation where it was obvious that I had the problem.
Yeah.
So we went down to going to a fertility clinic back then in 2010. We even went as far as doing in vitro fertilization, and it didn't work.
What's that?
So it's some form of where they get the male semen and just inject it into the woman, and yeah, it failed. Because obviously there was a problem that I had, that I didn't know I had. Mm-hmm. So yes, the marriage didn't work out. And then fast track down the line, like three years after that, I started dating an amazing friend who's now my husband. So we dated for over 5 years. Yeah. And then we cohabited at some point, like for 3 years, before we officially got married. And this is something that we were not really trying, but you know, when woman and man stay together, it's something that, yes, it's inevitable. Yeah. So yeah, we were courting, actually we were engaged. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we couldn't it couldn't just work. We couldn't have a child. So I went back to my mom. I said, Mom, I think this is a problem that we need to look at seriously. I'm going through infertility. And then, you know, whereby people would ask you, you know, peers, you're in an age range.
Yeah.
Most of my friends that I was with, because I've maintained the same friends that I was with in primary school. So all of them are mothers. And then I was like the only one who's not a mother at the time. So you get that sense to say, maybe something is wrong with me. These people are having children and I'm not. So that's how come I discovered I had the problem.
What were your friends saying around you? What were your friends saying? Did you ever, maybe when they asked, say, okay, why would you want to have a child? Maybe you just don't want to have a child. Did you tell them, say, look, I want to have a child and it's just not happening?
Well,
What was their reaction?
Wow, especially family.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, Helen. For someone who's going through infertility, especially in these families, it's really a struggle. You know, there are certain people who ask questions just for mockery, not questions that would actually that mean well.
Yeah.
They would come to you and say, oh, Nachi, so they'll sometimes hold your tummy. You're not pregnant yet, you know. Such, and then, you know, you go because you want to put up face, you don't show your emotions there, you go and show your emotions elsewhere. Sometimes your friends will be like, namanje, you know, nishi munkala wa muna beka, you know, such comments.
Wow.
And but for my friends, those that are in my circle, they actually I thank God that God blessed me with these wonderful friends who actually brought their children close to me. And if you see, most of my friends' kids call me Mami. So I never really felt that void and that gap. Even my sister's children, call me Mami, because they, I think, understood that there was that void that I was having in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very nice. But how was, now you are married to your husband and you're having the same problem. How was your husband handling the situation?
So like for my husband, he was my friend. Like I mentioned, he was an amazing friend before we married. So he knew that actually in my first marriage, it did not work. We didn't have a child.
Yeah.
So I told him, I opened up to him. I said, babe, I remember one fateful night before I conceived my first child. I told him to say, do you know that if this thing is pursued, I would never, ever give you a child. And then he said, why do you say so? I actually told him to say, I'm barren. Just simple.
Oh.
I didn't want to, because I was tired of sugarcoating the whole thing. I tried to go medically. I tried to go for prayers at that time. And then it was just, I'm barren. And then he kept quiet and he said, because he has kids, I thank God for them. He has kids before us. So he just said, fine, marriage is not all about kids. Yeah.
Okay.
And we moved on from there. So for him, he was okay with even pursuing the marriage without children. He was okay with that, because I've asked him so many times, though he doesn't give me a distinct answer. He says he tries to amplify the fact that there should be love first, then kids should come as a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good on your part, because I mean, we've heard stories where some men will resent their wives because of that. So you had the support from your partner, you had the support from your mother, and from your inner circle. That is good. So when you conceived the first time, how did you feel? First, I just want to know how you felt when you saw the pregnancy test and you're pregnant. And how did it happen? Was it medically done? Was it naturally done? Or was it prayers?
So I'm a very spiritual person.
Yeah.
Let me mention that. I think the circumstances around me led me to Christ and to lead a Christ life. So I was consistently praying, but not praying for a child, because remember, I started long time, so I had given up. Yeah. So I was in prayer, and then one day, a friend of mine that I was with in grade 5, 6, 7 called me. She was, coincidentally, she was my next door neighbor.
Yeah.
She called me and said, Nachi, I have dreamt that you are pregnant. And I laughed. I said, ha, 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 ha. Pregnant? Me? And then she said, yes. And then the same month, I conceived. When I conceived, I started having, you're a mother, you have those back pains, whatever. And I was coming from my niece's wedding, which was at Sunday's Creation. And I told myself to say, let me buy a pregnancy tester. It was something that I don't know how it came into my instinct. And then I tested. I went to my husband, I showed him the test, and he was in shock. He walked away.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he couldn't wrap around it, so he just walked away.
Because you kind of all gave up, like, this is our story.
Like, no, we actually grasped the fact that we cannot have a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
after that, Helen, it's a sad story again. I conceived my first pregnancy. I went through the pregnancy. I discovered I had high blood pressure. And then I started having preeclampsia. I don't know if you know what that means.
Yeah.
Fast track. At 8 months, I was rushed into emergency C-section. And the baby just lived for 4 hours. I don't really know how long the baby lived, because I was not told that the baby had died until the following day. So I believe the baby had lived just for a few hours.
Wow.
And then she died. It was a girl, when I was pregnant, it was such a joy that finally I'm coming out of this shame of barrenness. And then again, I lost the child.
Which year was that?
That was 2020 December, on the 29th of December.
That's the first time we were supposed to do the interview, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the first time I was supposed to do the interview, because I was like, oh, finally,
Yes.
I'm out of infertility. Can I share my story? Can I tell people how I came out of it?
Yeah.
And then, my child died.
How, what conversation, because you are prayerful, but I'm just thinking, if something like that happens, what conversation can I have with God? What conversation? Did you even have a conversation? Did you have the strength to have a conversation with God? I'm not saying prayer, because I know sometimes when circumstances are hard, prayer is hard. Sometimes you just have a conversation. So what conversation did you have with God at that time? Take your time.
Yeah.
Sip a drink.
Thank you. Thank you for the offer.
I'm here offering you the drinks.
Yeah, it's... Helen, if there's a time I prayed, was the time when I was pregnant, because I knew that this is a warfare that I'm in. Yeah. So, and then losing the child, I had so many questions I wanted to ask God.
Yeah.
But again, I also thank God that He entrusted me with the right people around me who helped me. A shout out to my former workplace. Everyone was supportive, because they all knew my story, and they didn't know what to tell me. Someone would call me and just be like, how are you?
And the how are you is difficult to come out, because they know that you're not okay.
Yes.
So
I would cry myself to sleep. I lost 50 kgs. I'm naturally a big person. I lost 50 kgs in the process, like 52 kgs. I went into a depression. I couldn't pray. And when people are praying, I would close the door. I didn't want to hear prayer. Because for me, it's not that I hated God, but it just didn't work for me at that time. And then I told myself, I'm never going to have a child. This is done for me. I'm never, ever going to conceive. This is done. This is it.
Yeah.
And then, through time, like after time, God started rebuking me, and I started to see light. And you know, one person that I never talked to, someone I was with in primary school, she's not in the circle of my friends. She texted me on Facebook. I'll show you the message. She said, I have a vision that you are meant to go through what you're going through because there's someone that you need to speak to who will be going through your same situation. You will have a child eventually, but not now. You still have to go through this.
Oh, wow.
And it's something that I took lightly at the time, but I don't take it lightly anymore because the events that happen between then and now. Yeah. So eventually I moved past it, and then fast forward in June, like 6 months after I lost my child, I conceived. We thank God for that. And then 4 months later, I miscarried.
Oh, wow.
I was carrying a baby boy at the time. And then I don't know what led me to go to the hospital. I just said, let me go to the hospital. Let me go and see what's going on. And then I was told the baby you're carrying actually died a month ago.
What?
So yeah.
So you were not feeling any movements?
No, I was, funny enough, Helen, I was feeling movements. I could feel the baby move. Even the day that I was going for a scan, I could feel the baby move. And then I was being told those movements were that the fetus was detaching away from you because it had died. So it's what they call a missed abortion.
Okay.
Yes. So they told me to go and think about it, whether they should clean me up or whatever. I said, the God I believe in, if he wants this child to stay, he's kept this child in my womb for 1 month. So something is going to happen. I was expecting a miracle. And then, you know, God just allowed everything to happen. That same day, the baby came out. No, 2 days later, the baby came out. I stayed for, I think, a month again, and I conceived.
You?
I conceived and I miscarried at 2 months.
Jesus. How was your body feeling? Like, didn't you feel like, oh, I think I just need to give up? Or?
Well, at the time, I was, you know what depression does? You know what depression and frustration does? You try to, you become selfish and want to quench that thing that has led you to go into that state. So for me, I was going through a depression, and I thought the only way to quench this depression of mine is by having a child quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But how was your husband in this situation? How?
He became mute.
Yeah.
I remember each time I was working for one of the hotels in Lusaka, one of the big hotels in Lusaka at the time. Mm-hmm. So I was heading a department. You know, each time I knock off, I had a timetable. Like, I would reach home maybe by 17, 18. And then 18, I sit down, I save him food, I prepare something to eat. 19 is eating, and I'll sit beside him and start crying. So he's a person that I've only seen him in the 8 years that we've been together. I've only seen him cry once, and that was after our daughter died. So he became mute, like he was silent. You know, he wouldn't make any movement, like even shake his body. Like, for him, he became numb.
Yeah.
So I remember I called him on the last pregnancy that was miscarried. I told him to say, babe, hello? And then he said, yes. I've miscarried. And then he asked me, what are you talking about? I said, I've lost the baby.
Yeah.
And then he said, okay, thank you. Then he hung up.
Yeah.
Then he hung up.
He was done.
Yeah, I think he was numb. I can't really explain what he was going through at the time.
Yeah.
because we show our emotions differently. And for him, I think it's a matter of he battles it inside more than outside. Yeah.
But now, there's something that we talked about before the interview, and you talked about some traditions that you had to go through, some beliefs, some myths that Africans, maybe our Zambian culture.
Yes.
So just tell us about those and how did they make you feel?
Okay, so first of all, for me being a prayerful person, I mentioned, certain things did not sit well with me. So there's this myth in our African culture that when someone miscarries or has a baby that has died, a baby that hasn't gone home or whatever, you can't sit with them and eat in the same plate. You need to like distance yourself from them. You can't handshake with them.
I didn't know that until you told me.
You didn't?
No, I didn't know that. I just remember, there's just one, I remember when we were young, and I think it happened with one of the neighbors, and they were asking everyone to wash their hands.
Yes.
Kind of, I didn't understand what it was.
So
like,
you wash your hands in aloe vera.
Yes.
You wash your feet. I remember when
What's that for?
I don't know. I equally don't know.
What are we cleaning?
Yeah, what are we cleaning? Like, this is a human being. And you know, the thing is that they treat someone who's... I remember at one point I wanted to post my child, may I so rest in peace. I wanted to post her pictures, and then someone who's close to me, not on my side, on my husband's side, said, can you delete those pictures away from your phone? Because my mom allowed me to keep the pictures. Like I said, she's my support system. She knew that eventually I'll get rid of them, like in my own setting. Can you delete those pictures? I was taught to delete my late daughter's pictures because tradition does not allow you to mourn a child, because they say when you mourn a child that has died little, you are closing your way to have another child.
But I've seen people that have mourned the child that's like a day-old child, and they've mourned for a long time, and they conceived later still. It's
a myth. It's a very, very...
So how did it feel? Because I mean, the way we heal differently. For some of us, like if you want to mourn your child, that's your process to healing.
Yeah.
So how did that affect your healing process?
It derailed it, actually.
Yeah.
It did derail it, in sense that something that was meant to take maybe 3 months, it took longer. Because each time I start crying, I would be told, no, don't remove your voice, cry from inside. And then you'll be like, And it was
oh my God,
so irritating. And so, no, you're closing your way, you're not going to have children. And then, you know, worst of it, at least on the child I was allowed to mourn a bit, but the miscarriages. Nothing. I was told not to even utter a word or even tell people, let alone tell people that I'm going through a miscarriage. And then we have this funny tradition where we are told not to cook after you lose a child or you miscarry. You are told not to put salt. You are not told not to. But for my mom, because she grew up in a Jehovah's Witness background, so she's like scrapped that off. You know, just other outsiders would come and tell me to, like, ask mom if that thing is happening, and mom would be like, no, I mean, she's just like any other person.
Yeah. Okay. At least you had your mother. You really
yes,
had your
I
mother.
remember even close people couldn't even come to see me. And these are the people that would like come to me for anything. And they just waited for that period, like they give you space for that period to be over, which is not good, Helen. Because when someone loses a child, a miscarriage is as good as losing a child.
Because you develop a bond with a child before they're even born.
Life begins the day you conceive.
Yeah.
You need to be around that person. You need to comfort that person. You need to, like, give them encouragement. You don't leave them alone. I recently saw a story on media where a young lady like us committed suicide because she lost a child. Why? It's because of these same myths.
Yeah.
Where they won't even allow you to go to your own child's grave. Up to date, Helen, I don't know where my child was buried.
What?
No, I don't. I just know she was buried in Leopard's Hill. I don't know.
I think that's unfair.
Yes. And then, you know, you leave someone to be alone in that state. You tell them not to eat, like you segregate them. They feel like an outsider.
Yeah.
What comes in? Depression. What comes in? Suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know, this is what I keep on telling people to say. If someone goes through a miscarriage, they're as good as anyone else. There's no side effect. Nothing can happen to you. A shout out to my friend Tendai, who called me. She's actually my best friend. She called me one day. I was crying, and then she said, why are you crying, Nati? You know, these myths, people don't want to be around me. I feel lonely, what? And she said, no, I'm actually coming to your house. I want to cook food and eat on the same plate with you.
You know what? And that's what you need. I don't get it. Firstly, for you, you're being stigma. You have to go through the stigma of not having a child for a long time.
Oh, yes.
So that pain already is there. Then you try to conceive, and then you have all these losses, and then you're segregated again. So it's like pain after pain.
Pain after pain.
Did you seek therapy or church counseling, professional counseling, for you to get your emotions back together? Because I don't think it's an easy journey.
No, it's not. Actually, the biggest therapy I've taken myself on is through the Word of God and mixing around with believers. That's the biggest therapy I've gone through, and just being around my husband, you know, because for him, he takes me as a normal person. He did not even do any of those things that I've been mentioning. So the Word of God, being around believers, and being around my husband, that's what has actually made me who I am today. Like, I'm able to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now, going through 3 losses, right? You are conceiving your child now. Did you have to seek medical attention to say what's causing these miscarriages? What's causing all these losses? What did we do wrong? Is there something wrong with my womb?
So first of all, let me just tell you something. What helped me keep the pregnancy in me was accepting the loss. Previously, I was not accepting that I had lost kids. I hadn't moved away from the mourning period.
Yeah.
I was still attached to the loss. So like the Bible says, let the dead, when Jesus answered one of the disciples, he said, let the dead bury themselves. Yeah. So you need to let go of the dead for you to be entrusted with the living. So the moment I accepted to say, I've lost these children, I need to move on. There's a point at which I need to move on.
Yeah. And
then I started to see life. You know, whatever happens right now, you need to first envision, whatever happens in life, you need in your life as a person, you need to envision it first. Other deeper Christians would say you need to prophesy it, speak it in your life first. So yeah, so I started to first see life, and that's how I managed to keep the pregnancy. I think it was just a declaration. So I didn't seek medical help to answer your question. I didn't seek, but like I've told you, I'm a prayerful person. I didn't go to a man of God and say, pray for me to keep the child. But I was consistently engaging myself with prayerful people around me, the senior men of God, just to pray with me after I had conceived, not before.
Before you conceived, I'm just curious. There's a lot of things we even see on social media. People are saying, if you want to conceive, drink this. If you want to conceive, do this. Did you take any of those?
No, I didn't take anything.
Wow,
I did not take anything. I just put myself on a water therapy and I started to run. I lost a bit of weight and boom, I conceived.
Okay.
I did not take anything. I did not take any Hebo. No, I don't believe in that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm affected by cancer. My mom is a cancer survivor, so I know certain things are just harmful to one's body. So I am really cautious about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you conceived your...
I conceived my little girl last of last year. It was a journey. Hey,
yeah.
It was a journey.
Wasn't smooth as well.
No, it wasn't. It was a journey. I discovered in the process I have diabetes. So I had high blood pressure, I had diabetes, and I thank God for one of my friends, Agnes, who introduced me to this very good gynecologist. So I went to him when I was 2 weeks pregnant. I said, "Doctor, I'm pregnant." "Madam, how do you know?" Because he's of Asian descent. And then I said, "I know, I am pregnant. Can you start helping me?" And I gave him my history.
Yeah.
So we started going together, and then in the process we discovered that I had gestational diabetes, which only comes when you're pregnant, and I had obviously high blood pressure, and I have a problem when I'm pregnant. Even though I'm not eating, I become morbidly obese. So there's the weight aspect.
So even your child's weight was going faster.
Yes, because of diabetes.
Because of diabetes, yeah.
Yes. I actually had to give birth to her prematurely, but she was still big.
Yeah.
But she stayed in the NICU. We are coming to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was closely visiting my doctor. We're in contacts, we're in tabs at all time. I remember there's a time within my pregnancy I was required to go and work outside Lusaka in the bush, but we would be on phone. Like, we would have a consultation every 2 days, just to see on how things are going. Yeah. I almost lost my pregnancy at 5 months.
Oh, what happened?
So I have fibroids as well.
Shucks.
Yeah. And I went into early labor. I had to start, like I mentioned, I was in the bush, so I had to start to look for people that would stand with me in prayer, because I believe everything is conquered through prayer and the word of God, because it gives us, it's clear, it gives us power to overcome anything.
Yeah.
So I actually started to look for people within the bush to stand with me in prayer. It was a battle, Helen. It was a battle, a big battle. Like, it's a story of 1 year. If I had to tell you on details like what I went through during my pregnancy. But just know that it wasn't easy. I went through all these chronic illnesses. And you know what's surprising is that the moment I give birth, 2 days later, everything disappears. I don't have BP, I don't have diabetes, I don't have fibroids. When I scan, they're not seen.
They're not seen.
Yes.
Them. Yeah. Oh,
they only come when, these complications only come to me when I'm pregnant. So yeah. Fast forward, I had my baby girl through prayer and support around me.
Yeah. Thank you. We thank God for obviously the people that he brought close to you, including the gyne, because I always tell people, I remember when I was in hospital for a while and I was telling people, like, I don't want to undergo a C-section. I'm like, you know, you have to, if God says you're going to give birth through C-section, you just have to pray about it. Yes. Let it come with, let God be with those people that are working on you. So we really thank God that your journey ended well. So now that your child is born, and do you have, when you share your story first, how many times do you get people come to you and say, look, I'm going through this, help me?
A lot, Helen. Like, from the time my child was, even people in my family who I didn't know are going through the same thing silently.
Yeah. This is a battle that a lot of people are silently fighting. A lot of people are silently dying, especially men. I've had a few men come to me and say, I and my wife are going through a process of IVF. We are going through this, we are going through that. And we thank God for such things now. Like,
yes, we thank God for a shout out to IVF, a shout out to scientists for developing such things that are helping. And you know what I always tell people? No matter the medical, like I've told you my medical journey at first, it didn't work. No matter the medical things you go through, without God, it does not work. Yeah. It does not work. So I've had a lot of people that come to me A lot of people have cancelled. A lot of people have introduced to my doctor. Some have had success stories. Some are still going through it.
Yeah.
But I just pray one day we reach a point where we stop to judge people that are going through it. You know, even when
don't ask too many questions about when are you having a child. When are you having a child.
Yes. And even when someone is coming to tell you about this, they'll whisper. They'll not tell you in open to say, this is what I'm going through. They'll whisper it to you. I'm actually going through. So, munaenda kuliwa doctors. Like, say it loud. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not your fault that you're barren. It's not your fault that... And actually, when you read the Bible, there's no place where it says a woman will be barren.
Yeah.
Everyone who delayed to have a child has a child eventually. So this is something that, let's stop this stigma of laughing at people that are going through infertility. You know, everyone, as long as you are womb man, you have a womb. That's why we're named woman. There comes a time when it's just time. Yeah. Our biological clock is different. Everyone's biological clock is different, I believe. Yeah.
We really thank you for sharing your story. I think like it's very strong of you to come out and share this story the way you have. And firstly, because I know after this, there'll be some people that would want to talk to you, maybe talk to your doctor. How can they get in touch with you? Maybe social media handle how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I'm going to share my number, but I'm found at Legacy Resort. That's where I work. So if you just work to, like, you can find me here. Obviously not my home address.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to share my number on the screen. My work number, not this place's number, but my work number, the one I use for my business. You can contact me between after 17. Because it's better not to interrupt with my work hours. Yeah. So they can come to me. Thank you so much, Helen. I appreciate. Yeah. And thank you for helping someone out there.
I should thank you for that, for coming out. Okay, so just before we go, I would like you to just look into the camera and just talk to somebody who may be going through this situation.
Okay. To anyone going through this situation, first of all, it's not something that you should be ashamed of. There are a lot of people that have gone through it and have come out of it. I myself has gone through it, and I thank God I've come out of it with the right support and the right help around me. Don't be ashamed to talk to people about it. Talk about it. You don't know whether the help is right next to you, but because you're in the closet, you can't talk about it, you won't receive that help. It's a thing of, it always has a solution. Like, I believe there's no problem here on earth that cannot be solved. So talk to people about it, seek right medical attention, ask God to intervene. I won't really dwell on that because we have different beliefs, but seek the right help. Like, firstly, and then to family members, I also want to talk to them on that. Don't judge. You don't know what someone has gone through to actually be in that situation. No person, you know, children are a blessing from God, and children are a joy that everyone would want to experience. No person would want not to have it, to have that joy. But by you coming out and judging them, I think this narrative should come to an end, you know. Certain situations that we find ourselves in, like, they just come to anyone. They don't choose who to come to. So let's support our family members that are going through it. Let's be supportive partners, our partners that are going through it. There's always a way of coming out of a problem. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for sharing your story. So for those that would like to get in touch, the number is shared on the screen. Do call her after working hours if you feel like you need to talk to somebody. And I'm sure if you want to see her doctor, she'll be able to help you with that as well. This has been your girl, Helen. We've been talking about a very sensitive subject to many and hoping it has helped somebody out there. So keep subscribing to our channel. Bye-bye.
Bye.